Hello, my creative friends. Jessica Sanders here of ColorMeCreativeArt.com, and welcome to my channel. So today, let's paint a whimsical Christmas girl. I've gotten out my watercolor supplies, including my Jane Davenport journal, and I'm flipping through to find the exact right page. And I put these little deli papers in here so that I can protect the other pages, because I tend to use a lot of water when I'm doing watercolor. So this really comes in handy. And then also these pages, because I use a lot of water, may buckle sometimes. And so I also use the little clips to kind of hold them flat. And it just really comes in handy that way. So I started out with my Chameleon pencils. And I just wanted to draw a face, a whimsical face. And I'm using the purple because that kind of disappears as you go along. And so it's a great way to sketch it, and it sort of disappears. You may see the lines a little, but they're not prominent, so it's nice. A nice way to start for me. And I did my normal, drew my circles, started with my cross, placing my eyes, my nose, my lips, and everything like that, and then refined it just a little. And I wanted to put a Santa hat on her, so I also sort of drew that in. This is the little fluffy part. It was actually quite a bit of fun to draw this. And then you'll see I hop around a lot when I'm drawing and when I'm painting. To me, it makes sense. It may not make quite as much sense to you because, you know, you're not inside my head, but basically I'm like, okay, let me do this, then I'll see how this looks together and see how it all works out. So I drew this little Santa hat and then went back, added her neck and refined her features a little bit. I felt like the face was a little too broad in some places, added the mouth. And so next I'm going to be moving on to adding some watercolor once I finish with the pencil. When I'm using the pencil, what I'm doing is just putting my ideas on paper. So this is not what the finished person will look like. It's just a beginning of the idea of what she'll look like. And I refine everything as I go, little by little. So you'll see things change as I go. And that's just normal for me. That's the way I create. So I got out my Jane Davenport neutral palette to create a skin tone. And I'm just using a pink and a yellow to create a peach. And a lot of water because I want it to be really light, a really light sort of pinky skin tone, which I think is good for this sort of holiday theme because you know, when it's cold outside, your skin can look a little pink. So I thought that's what I would do. And then I wanted to, I always like to incorporate all of my colors everywhere. So I even took the skin tone outside of her face and added it some to the background. And you see I'm using a mop brush. I didn't want detail at this point. But now I'm switching to the round brush so I can get more detail. I like to lay in a little bit of this sort of Prussian blue color. I think Jane calls it ink. It's from the Brights palette. And to me, it's a sort of Prussian blue color. It's a nice shadow color. And it will blend right in with the wet paint that's already on my face. So I really like the effect. But I'm using a really thin mixture of this paint. So if you've seen my Skillshare classes, then you may have seen me using different thicknesses of paint from thick, medium, and thin. And when you want a really light color, you use a really thin mixture, which is mostly paint. Which is mostly water and just a touch of paint. So while the face is drying a little bit, I'm just going to move to the background. And I want to paint a snowy background. This is also a technique that I taught in one of my most recent Skillshare class, which was about painting snowy backgrounds, falling snow actually, not just snow, but falling snow, and I really had fun, so I also wanted to share it with you here on YouTube. It's a really easy technique and a lot of fun to do. And basically you lay in a dark color wash in the background. And you can see mine's splotchy and everything because I want it to be out of focus and in the background. But I also want it to be dark enough so that my snow will show up. And then I'm going to just add in some white. So this can be white watercolor. This can be the hydrous white. It can be acrylic, or it can be gouache. Any of those things. So while it's still wet, you add in the white in little drops, and it will create this sort of fadey, that's not a word, but anyway, it will create this really soft background of falling snow. The idea that something is going on back there. There's white and dark and just a lot of interest in your painting. So you have to do this while it's wet. So I am working very quickly. Not as quickly as it may appear, because this video is actually sped up to be twice as fast. It took me a little over an hour, about an hour and 10 minutes to paint this painting altogether. And I have managed to get it down to 30 minutes for you, so to make it a little bit more easy to watch. But I did have to work quite quickly with this background. It's quite large to keep wet for this whole time, and I used quite a bit of water. It has to stay wet, or this dropping the white in won't have that same effect of the really soft snow falling in the background. So I worked really quickly. And I did basically the same thing here. I splotched in darks and mediums. I used several different colors of blue, and then I added in the white. I wanted bigger spaces and smaller, so depending on how you tap it in is the kind of marks you're going to get. I apologize if you hear a lawnmower in the background. My neighbor has decided to mow. I can't really do anything about that. Okay, so now I'm going to go and start adding a little more color to the face. I wanted to add this pink to the lips. I wanted them to be nice and pink, but I actually got them a little too wet, and so you'll see that I struggle a little bit throughout the painting with that pink sort of escaping the lips, but it all works out. It's all just fine. See right there. I tapped it with the heel of my brush, and it just flowed right out and into the face. But it all worked out in the end, like I said, but it just took a little bit of cleaning up with a dry brush repeatedly. I did several times throughout this painting. So adding in a little bit more shadows here and there to the face, and the rosy cheeks with really soft edges. And then another layer of the skin tone. Now this is the same mixture that I used before of the pink and the yellow, and but a little bit less water, so it looks a little darker, but just nice. I caught the lip again. Still, I was able to clean it up, so it all worked out. But you can see really well now that the lip is escaping, so I'm going to clean it up again. Like I said, I had to do this several times while I was doing this painting. That's what happens when you're not super precise, and I am not super precise. Now add a little bit of the burnt umber or brown into that skin tone mixture to get this sort of dark color that I have here. And now I decided I'll work on the hat. So I've got a mermaid marker, which is from one of Jane's new sets called Shipwrecked. It's from the Shipwrecked set, and the name of the color is called Octopus. So I just tested it, and it's such a rich and beautiful red that I thought it was perfect for the Santa hat. And I'm using just sort of a swirling motion most of the time and redrawing as I go. If you'll notice, I got some of the blues into the hat where I drew it, and I really don't care about that, because to me it's going to add some shadow and texture and depth to there, and for me that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. I don't want it to be like one perfect solid color, because not so good in real life. Not as, I don't know, it's just not as much depth, so I like having some of that blue underneath. Now I worked on the lips a little bit more. I added the mermaid marker, but it was not a good point in the drying process. And so I actually kind of removed that also. Softening a few more edges there. So you'll see me keep working back and forth between here and there, letting something dry while I work on something else. So I added a little bit of this really thin mixture of blue to add some shadow to the cotton that we have on our hat. I didn't want it to be like super stark white. I want it to have some depth to it as well. And so adding that pale mixture of blue works great for that. And I did like a swirly motion as if it was fluffy. So I'm thinking about things and their textures and how they are when I'm painting them. So I'm thinking, oh, this is fluffy. I want it to feel fluffy. How would I do that? And so I made like swirly marks in this case. Then I decided I would give her a shirt or top to match her Santa hat. And so I went back to the mermaid marker, but this time I softened out that color with my mop brush, which I also used that mop brush in the background of the painting. And then I noticed she had like a little strange thing going on with her shoulders. So I'm adding a little bit more of the blue in there just to kind of, it really drew my eye. You may not be able to tell in the video, but as I was painting, that spot was really bright and made me look there, and I didn't want that. So now I'm mixing up a warm yellow for her hair, which is just a combination of yellow with a tiny touch of orange from the neutral palette. So the colors I actually used from there were I used Mango, and I used Kiss Kiss with just a tiny touch of the Kiss Kiss to make that yellow more warm. And I just laid in basically a solid layer for her hair. This is going to be the background color, basically. But it's the light background color, not the dark background color. And then a little bit more thicker mixture in some places while it was still wet to just add some depth and shadow. Added a little tiny bit of that yellow to the hat. I just wanted like some light is shining there, so I felt like I wanted to add that little bit of yellow. And then I'm back to skin tones again. I'm not like big on skin tones. I feel like the skins can be any color and it can be really pretty as long as you get your tones and values right. But this time I just decided I would do the skin tone colors, so I had a lot of fun with it. I really did. Another layer on the cheeks. You'll see me doing lots of layers. When I first started painting, I didn't realize that people painted in layers. I mean, that may sound like basic, but I just thought, okay, the perfect stroke, like real artists say, real artists, the first stroke was the perfect one and that was it. But no, that's not the way it works, guys. It's not. You need layers. Layers are just, I don't know, they're like so important. They add so much depth to your painting. Back to working on the background just a little bit. A really thick mixture of that dark blue. The same blue that I used for the shadow on the face is what I'm using here. So my painting is tied together. It has all of the colors basically are used in more than one place. That's also important for me to tie my painting together. Now I think I'm going to be adding a little color to the eyes. Yeah, not much, just a little bit of blue. Trying to keep it really light because this is my lightest layer. And you can see I'm pushing that pigment around. Now again, tying my painting together, I added a little bit of that blue as a shadow color there. And it's a little brighter blue than the other one, but it works still as a shadow color. Blue recedes, so that's why that works. Back to a little bit more skin tone. I'm just looking at my painting as I go. More shadow around the eyes, adding some depth. Again, I'm using that blue. great shadow color. And touching it up as I go. Again, it's all about the layers, so I will just keep going and adding more and more layers until it looks the way I want it to look. And yeah, I thought I might add like the idea that the hair is dark there flowing out, but I didn't end up actually liking that, so I just kind of blended it out. I did sort of add refined the hair a little bit, but I just sort of blended it out after that. Back to cleaning up that lip again. I swear that was the hardest part of this entire painting. Oh my goodness. So now I have my liner brush, and I'm using a thick mixture of the same color I used for the hair, just less water, and I'm just laying in some strands, just making a wiggly motion as I go, that the hair is flowing is the idea for me. I just want to see flow and movement and life and light in my paintings, and so that's what I'm trying to create here. So it's again just creating some flowing marks there. Really nice, really nice. This is a 0 liner brush, I believe. Actually, look, let me pull it out. Oh, it's a size 1 Princeton Select liner. It has long bristles, which is kind of fun to use. And I'm mixing more paint. Yeah, okay, so again, I'm using that dark mixture of the same color for the hair. It's the same color, it just has less water. And adding in some shadows to my hair to create depth. I apologize if I repeat myself sometimes. There are just certain things that you do. You add depth to your painting. There's certain things that I do, at least. I add depth. I add shadow. I add this idea that there's more to it than originally you might think. And those little details, for me, seem to add up and make a difference. So it's a lot of fun. Now, I wanted to work on the face more with the pencil. So I was testing to see if it was dry. Not really recommended to touch your painting to see if it's dry like that. But that's what I did. So, you know, it wasn't quite as dry as I needed it to be. So the pencil wasn't great. And I got out my heat tool. It actually took me about 5 minutes to dry this, but I cut out most of that for you. I didn't want you to see. And then I touched it all. Again, not the best way to determine if your painting is dry, because you may move your paint around. But anyway, that's what I did. So, you know. Now I'm adding some detail to the eyes with my Sharpie paint pen. This is a white acrylic Sharpie paint. Adding some highlights, adding the whites, and basically all over my painting, a little bit of highlight. Back to adding details to the eyes. I'm using my Chameleon pencils for this. I have, I think, about 3 pencils out on my table for this project, which gives me 6 different colors, which is nice. Darkening, darkening. I zoomed in because I wanted you to be able to see more detail on how I do the eyes. I love the eyes. I love filling them with light and making them look just, I don't know, shiny and bright. Shiny and bright. I love shiny, so I guess that's why I did it this way. Why I'm always adding lots of light to my eyes is what I feel like I try and do anyway. I don't always succeed in the best, but I'm having fun trying and learning, and that's mainly what I'm after. I'm mainly after learning. I'm a lifelong learner, and I have the most fun when I'm trying to learn something. So adding the idea of an iris, although it's not a perfect circle or anything like that, and it's just the idea that there's something there. And then some more shadows, and using, if you notice, really scribbly marks, which to me adds texture. And I refined that chin a little bit. I wasn't happy with that jawline, and so I wanted to refine it. So I'm using this sort of dark purple pencil and just changing it just completely changing it and then flipping it and blending out those colors to make it look nice. And you will never know that if you didn't see me just change it just then, you would never have known that it was like that, right? So again, I'm just doing refining and drawing. Adding some details here and there. The mouth line, a shadow here and there, and then pressing down a little harder to draw some strands of hair with the pencil. And this is actually with a dark blue pencil. So again, it all ties together. All the colors work together and are repeated in all throughout the painting to create some what I feel is cohesive artwork. More shadow under the nose. Now I've got out my Pitt pen, and it will write nicely on here. And it's also a little bit smudgeable right at the beginning, like before it dries, it's slightly smudgeable. So you'll see me adding smudges here and there. And some eyelashes. They didn't really match, but it's okay. Dark, dark. Making some dark darks right there. Adding more, refining, constantly refining and adding lines and shadow and highlights. And again, I'm not going for perfection here. So you'll see scribbly marks. You'll see it's not perfect. In the hat, you can see lines from the pencil where I first drew her. And I'm okay with that. I really am. Now I laid down some color for eyebrows and I wasn't happy with that. So I basically took it off again. It's just a sort of like a little warm highlight there now. And then I wanted to add a little more shadow right around the eyes with just really light color. So I'm just sort of experimenting with the layers here to add depth. But I didn't like that line on the nose. It took that straight off too. And a little more dark, and clean it up even more. Just really light, really light. Back to my Sharpie, adding more highlights to the face. You get a nice close-up view now of how I'm adding highlights to the lips, the eyes, the nose. It's looking pretty cool now. I'm really starting to like it and see it come together. Again, this is not about perfection. It's not. It's about enjoying the process. And it is about creating something beautiful. Of course, I want my artwork to be beautiful. It doesn't always turn out beautiful. So it really is it's about the process. Ultimately, it's about enjoying the process. Now I wanted to add some more light to my hat. So I'm swirling this Sharpie paint pen around with lots of paint on it to make it even more fluffy. I just want it to be fluffy. Gonna do the same thing with the little ball. There we go. Looking nice so far. I like it a lot. Now you could use a Posca pen for this or a white gel pen, but I just like using the Sharpie paint for certain things. I think it goes on like really easily over these colors. So here's another thing that I taught in my Skillshare class for making holiday cards, and that is drawing snowflakes. So I did falling snow and drawing snowflakes, really simple ways to draw. It was really a lot of fun. So I wanted to add that also to my Christmas girl. We actually got snow here in Texas this year before Christmas, and well, for us that's like so amazing and so fun, and we always make a big deal out of it with our family and with our kids. We go out and play. We actually made like a 3-foot snowman, which is the biggest snowman we have ever made, at 5:30 in the morning before school, because you know the snow was going to melt later that day. We knew the snow wasn't going to stay, but it was just so much fun. And so also then adding this to my journal will remind me that this year it snowed in Texas at home, and it was great. It was so much fun. So I want to add some splatter. Again, it's the idea of falling snow, and I'm using the Hydrus and a fan brush. A fan brush is great for splattering. It's my favorite tool for splattering. So I covered the face. I didn't want snow on the face. I don't mind if it gets on the hat and the clothes a little, maybe even on the hair a little, but definitely I didn't want it on the face. Lots of splatters. I did big and small, and really made me happy to do it. Really looked nice. I think I might be finished here, but then I wasn't. I decided, okay, I'm going to add on to this blouse a little bit. So I used the Sharpie paint and added a little bit to the collar. Not my best drawing of a collar. Then added some highlighted areas to the hair. And then the other thing I decided I wanted to add was the metallic paint. I really love my Genzi Tambi Starry colors. They're so much fun. And so I added some metallic highlights to her hair with my liner brush. Again, loving using that liner brush. It's very shiny and it's opaque, so it's kind of nice too. And I'm also going to add a little bit to the background. So you'll see that in a second. And to her collar. Yeah, there we go. Little dots to her collar. Just for fun. Just to make her a little more sparkly. So I picked up my round brush because now I've decided I'm just going to splatter gold everywhere because I love to splatter. So I'm using my round brush and making some sort of big splotches and splatters with the gold. Love it. Love the texture and the color and the shimmer. What does it have to do with snow? Nothing. It's just fun. It's just fun. You have to have fun when you're painting. What's the point of painting if you're not enjoying it? I'm telling you, you need to enjoy it. Little more added to the eyes. Little bit more. More sparkle, more shine. That's what I'm going for. And then a little more depth. I realized I didn't have shadow in my eyes the way I wanted it, so I'm using my Chameleon pencil to add some shadow around the edges and under the eyelid to the eye. And once I'm finished with that, that is it. I am done. Oh, no. I added a little more highlight with the white Sharpie. I thought I was done. Again, you look at your painting and you decide as you go and you make little changes, and so here she is, all finished. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And be sure and hop over to my blog because I have free printable holiday coloring pages for you. And thank you so much for joining me. Have a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And I will see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.